And welcome into the Make the Money and Run podcast, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check them out in Silicon Valley on the border of Cupertino and San Jose, www.britanniaarmsdianza.com, or check out the Pacific Ocean, Britannia Arms in Capitola in the Capitola Village at facebook.com/Britannia Arms Capitola. And you can get them at 831-464-2583. We welcome you into the studio. Vasu Vaddiparty here with the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, November 22nd, 2021. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms, as we said. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. This week, we're going to have a little different schedule with Thanksgiving week coming up. We're going to be on Wednesday. We're going to have our Friday football show on Wednesday with a full Thanksgiving slate of NFL games and then college football to round out the season, the regular season, before the BCS totally screws that up and eliminates Cincinnati out of the number 4 spot. But we'll see how that goes. I'm just giving Cincinnati some love here. Hopefully they'll be able to get into the top 4. Lots of things happening in the BCS. Coming up, we'll talk about the NBA. We'll talk about some NCAA basketball. It's feast week, and those of you that are all over ESPN for college basketball, some great college basketball games that are taking place, that have taken place last week and this week. By the way, you should take a note of that NCAA football. Stop playing non-conference games late in the year and figure out how to get good competition if you want to have people respect you in terms of BCS rankings and BCS standings. But we start off in the NFL. Big upsets in the NFL. Oh, one more note. I want to make sure we let this know. We're going to have a Friday football show on Wednesday with the Thanksgiving weekend coming up. I'll be in Seattle on Thursday for the Apple Cup game Friday night, and then I'll be there through the weekend. So we'll have our Friday football show on Wednesday, 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter live. If you miss any of the live broadcasts, you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, to the NFL we go. How about those Indianapolis Colts? They started off 0-3, and now they are at 6-5. And really pushing everything up there in the AFC North. Tennessee Titans lose yesterday. We'll get to them in a second. But the Indianapolis Colts are 6-5, Tennessee 8-3. 5 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. You heard me. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5, says LeBron James. Touchdowns for the Indianapolis Colts running back with Derrick Henry out for the year. Jonathan Taylor will become the league's leading rusher, and he will win the rushing title from that standpoint. But a big victory for the Indianapolis Colts. They go 41-15 over the Buffalo Bills, who through 7 weeks, even at 5-2, still not with the best record. I still thought they were the best team in the AFC, but the last 2 weeks have been horrendous for the Buffalo Bills. Jonathan Taylor, the 5 touchdowns, turnovers galore by Josh Allen. Their offensive line cannot protect him. They cannot run the ball at all. They couldn't run the ball all year, but the Indianapolis Colts are on a big streak right now, and they are pushing the Tennessee Titans, who got upset by the Houston Texans. Are you kidding me? 22-13. Houston with a second win of the year. By the way, don't underestimate that any given Sunday theory. It can happen in the NFL. Now, we know the Titans don't have Derrick Henry. We know that they're struggling a little bit on the defensive side, getting to the quarterback. But their secondary did not play well yesterday, and Tyrod Taylor beat them on the road. 10.5-point underdogs is what they closed at. And the Titans end up losing. They're 8-3, still have the best record in the AFC, ahead of New England and Baltimore and Kansas City, as Arizona won yesterday, so they're 9-2. Green Bay lost, so they're 8-3 as well too. So it's just a matter of what's shaking out, what's real and what's not real in the NFL. But how about those Houston Texans? They now are 2-8. They're tied with Jacksonville, who lost to San Francisco yesterday pretty convincingly, and the 49ers are on a playoff run right now. Possibly. We'll see. But Indianapolis, the big win over Buffalo. Jonathan Taylor's 5 touchdowns. The Texans upset the Titans. How about the Minnesota Vikings? Kirk Cousins, can you play in big games? I think you can. You end up beating the Green Bay Packers on a game-winning field goal, 34-31. Vikings now 6-5. They are, 5-5. They're 2 back of the Packers in the NFC North with dancing visions of NFC North Division on their mind. 5-5 for the Minnesota Vikings. Green Bay 8-3. They have the head-to-head matchup, so that's a game that they come back as well too. The Washington football team beats Carolina. Carolina now 5-5, 5-6, as Washington is 4-6. The difference between the 7 seeds and the 12 seeds are unbelievable going into this coming weekend and the following weeks. You're looking at, as I look at it right now, the 7 to 12 seeds. New Orleans 5-5 is number 7. Minnesota has moved up to the 6th spot. They're 5-5. San Francisco is the 8th spot, 5-5. And Philadelphia 5-6. Carolina 5-6. They're 9-10. Washington 4-6. They're number 11. Atlanta 12 at 4-6. The Giants play tonight against Tampa Bay. They're 3-6, but if they get a win, they're right there at 4-6 as well too. Tampa Bay 6-3. They are going into tonight's game in the number 4 spot in the NFC overall picture. And you look at the standings, you figure out what's going on here. The Buffalo Bills now 6-4. They're a half game back. They're actually even in the loss column. But the New England Patriots are in first place now in the AFC East. Unbelievable how fast this thing turns out. The underdogs going into tonight, if you're an underdog player and you're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New York Giants game, we'll give you that line in a minute, but it's 11 right now. 47, I think, is the total. But the 8-6, this is week 11? This is about the 9th or 10th week where the underdogs have ruled. There's only been 2 weeks where the favorites have covered a majority of the games. And so 8-6 going into this week, into Monday night with these upsets. The Colts, the Texans, the Vikings, Washington football team beat Carolina. How about Taylor Heineke? He had a great game yesterday for the Washington football team. Cam Newton against his former coach, Ron Rivera. You knew there was a little marketing involved when they started Cam Newton against Washington and Ron Rivera in a game at home. He played well. He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, but the football team came back and got a tying touchdown, got the ball in the second half, took the lead, never relinquished the lead in the second half. They get the victory. 27-21 over Carolina. And Arizona, no Kyler Murray, no DeAndre Hopkins, no J.J. Watt, Chase Edmonds, no running game. They go into Seattle. What's going on with the Seattle Seahawks? Holy cow. Seattle Seahawks are 3-6. Is that right? 3-7 now. Completely out of the playoffs. They've got no shot at making the playoffs. What do you do with Russell Wilson now? There was talk of him being traded during the summer, but this is a defense for Arizona that played well. They got off to a good start. Colt McCoy, 2-0 as a starter. How about that? Beat the 49ers 2 weeks ago. You can't let Colt McCoy beat you, as the Bay Area press said. But then he goes into Seattle. The line was Arizona -2.5 with a total of 47.5 going into the week. But then when Murray was inactive or deemed inactive an hour and a half before the game time, when the injury reports come out, that line moved all the way from 2.5 in favor of Arizona to 5.5 for Seattle. And that was a game that I liked a lot in terms of Arizona. Now, 5.5 points, but that defense is good enough. Seattle hasn't stopped anybody this year. And sure enough, they got out to a big lead and they hammered the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona now 9-2 in the NFC. They have a 1-game lead over Green Bay. Green Bay did beat them on a Thursday night a few weeks ago. So if they end up tied, Green Bay will get that advantage. Dallas lost to Kansas City. Tampa Bay plays tonight. The Rams had a bye. And we told you about Minnesota and Green Bay. So lots to talk about in the NFL these next few weeks. And don't forget, we'll have a full Friday football show. But let's go on through the rest of the games here. Vasu Vaddiparty on the Make the Money and Run podcast, sponsored by the Britannia Arms at Capitola and Cupertino. Check them out during your Thanksgiving week as well. The shores of the Pacific Ocean in Capitola Village, or in Silicon Valley on the border of San Jose and Cupertino. All right, the Baltimore Ravens came back. No Lamar Jackson. That line went to -5 for Baltimore to -1.5 for Baltimore, 3.5-point swing. Bears got a touchdown late to take the lead. Could not hold him on defense. Tyrone Huntley, the former University of Utah quarterback, throws a long pass down the side, and then they get the touchdown. I don't have the details on me, but the Bears now 3-7. Justin Fields went out. Andy Dalton came in and threw 2 touchdowns for the Bears. It is still Justin Fields' team, but he went out with bad rib injury. So Baltimore comes back to beat Chicago. They retain the AFC North. Playoffs. They are 7-3. The Cincinnati Bengals have moved into second place. They're 6-4. The Steelers lost last night at San Diego. After overcoming a 17-point deficit, they came up with the lead 37-34, but then Mike Williams got behind the defense and the Chargers ended up winning 41-37. One note in that game, Justin Herbert becomes the third player in NFL history, 350 yards passing, 75 yards rushing. Russell Wilson did that last year, and Michael Vick back in 2011. All right, the game of the day, what turned out to be what was hyped as the game of the day, the Chiefs and the Cowboys. The Chiefs a 2.5-point favorite. First time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he has been less than a 3-point favorite at home in his career. And they were 2.5 points going into the game. I think it saw where it went up to 3. Chiefs defense, a top 10 defense these last 4 weeks. Who was worried about the Kansas City Chiefs? Buffalo had just stomped them out on a Sunday night. They were 4 and something. I forgot what they were, 4 and something. 4-4, 3-4, something like that. They've won 3 in a row. They're 7-4 now. They have a half-game lead over the Chargers, both in the loss column. Both have 4 losses. Las Vegas 5-5 and Denver 5-5. Las Vegas lost to Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, that was an easy call. Joe Burrow, a 2-point favorite going into Las Vegas. That was an easy call. You just didn't see the Raiders stepping up, especially the way that they played, the week before against Kansas City. And then they had the game before that against the where were they? They had the bye week against the Giants where they lost on the road. They never play well on the East Coast. So you're talking about the Giants, Kansas City, and now Cincinnati, 3 in a row from a 5-2 start to 5-5. Are they cooked? They're not out of it yet, but we told you it's a lot. There's a lot of leeway in those 7-12 spots. So Tennessee, Baltimore, New England, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Los Angeles, Buffalo round out the top 7. Buffalo, the best team in football. Now they're in the 7th spot, just ahead of Pittsburgh, who lost to the Chargers. We said Indianapolis in the 9th spot at 6-5. Cleveland 6-5. They barely got by Detroit. I told you on Friday, Lions are going to play hard every game, and they're going to win a game this year. They're not going to go undefeated. And they almost upset the Cleveland Browns yesterday. They did cover the 11.5 or 12 points, wherever it was. Las Vegas, 11th at 5-5. Denver, 12th, 5-5. That's due to the fact that Vegas beat Denver in Denver. Miami got a win over the Jets yesterday. They're 4-7. Houston, we told you about, over Tennessee. Jacksonville got hammered by the 49ers. 49ers right now on a run. They're running the ball. Garoppolo's playing better. There's no reason for people to get on him. I don't understand why people are still clamoring for Trey Lance right now. Jimmy Garoppolo, they've got a shot at the playoff spot right now. As I look at it, they're in the 8th spot. They're tied with New Orleans. They don't play New Orleans this year, but they didn't play Minnesota either, if I remember right. Wins by the tiebreak over New Orleans and San Francisco based on conference games. So they don't have a game against them this year. They've already played the Bears in the division. So they will have a game against Minnesota. I take that back. They will have a game against Minnesota later in the year. I don't think they're going to play the Saints at all. I'll have to get the schedule out for that for the Wednesday football show, for the Friday football show coming up on this Wednesday. So look at it to finish up the AFC. They got Houston, Jacksonville, and the Jets. The Jets at 16. They got beat by the Miami Dolphins yesterday. Tagovailoa had a great game for Miami. The defense played well. I know it's the Jets, but Miami's won 3 in a row. They are 4-7 now. I think that's right. Yeah, 3 in a row, 4-7. Arizona 9-2, Green Bay 8-3, Dallas 7-3 after their loss to Kansas City. The Buccaneers, they have the tiebreak edge over Dallas. If they win tonight, they'll move back into that 3rd spot over Dallas because they won opening night against the Cowboys. The Rams are 5th, Minnesota 6th, New Orleans 7th, San Francisco 8, Philadelphia 9, Carolina 10, Washington 11, and Atlanta at 12. The Giants, Chicago, Seattle, and Detroit all with 3 wins or less. If the Giants somehow pull an upset. Tampa Bay has lost 2 games in a row, by the way. So they lost to Washington. They lost to New Orleans the week before, in between with a bye. But I got a feeling that the Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, 2 in a row, they're going to come out and have their way with the Giants tonight. But we'll see how that goes in the end. All right, we said we have all the activity for the Tampa Bay and the Giants game tonight. Before we take a break, let's look at the line. Tampa Bay 11, 49.5. Buccaneers 2 games up on the Saints. They're 4th in the NFC, as we said. Gronkowski's active. Not sure if he's going to play or not, but he is not on the injured list. Saquon Barkley looks like he's going to play for the Giants too. Tampa Bay doesn't stop the run very well. Daniel Jones has had some big games this year. Giants 1 game back in the loss column from 7th with those 6 losses. Everybody from 7 to 11 have 5 losses. I'm sorry, 7 to 8. 6, 7, and 8 have 5 losses. The 9, 10, 11, and 12 teams all have 6 losses. So they're a game back in the loss column are the Giants, but they're in 13th place right now. They are 0-2 in the division. This is a non-division game, so maybe they'll have some luck. Do you like the Giants at plus 11? Let's see what you think. Get on the Facebook and get on the Twitter and get on the social media and let us know. Don't forget, we'll have our selections and our latest news at 6 o'clock Eastern every day, Monday through Friday. We're going to go early this week because of all the college basketball and all the college football that's going on early this week. Big college football week this week. We'll hit the college football and we'll hit all the ramifications for the BCS and everything that goes on with it on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty, your solo host here. College football coming up in 30 seconds. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter live. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you. Charlie O on assignment. Hopefully he'll be with us on Wednesday before the Thanksgiving weekend. Don't forget, we're going to do our Friday football show. We're going to do our Friday football show on Wednesday, 1 Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Capitola, 10 years on the shores of the Pacific Ocean in the Capitola Village. Get to them at facebook.com, Britannia Arms Capitola, 831-464-2583, and then the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, longest-running British pub and restaurant located in Silicon Valley, celebrating 40 years on the border of San Jose and Cupertino. BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262, and don't forget, we'll be back on Wednesday for the Make the Money and Run Friday football show. We'll be on Wednesday, 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 o'clock in the East. All right, so we did the NFL. A lot to talk about. Still a long way to go in determining the playoff picture. But with 7 teams in, there's still a lot of teams available here as we look at it. So the Make the Money and Run show will be there. Let's get to college football now. How about Ohio State? Boy, did they just tear Michigan State up, 56-7. The final score did not go over in the game. The over was 70, but it was 56-3, 56-7. Michigan State got a touchdown late. Michigan blast Maryland. Oklahoma State, who's number 9 in the rankings, they get Texas Tech. They shut them out 23-0. Cincinnati wins over SMU. Shakeup in the BCS. Oregon loses to Utah on the road. They were a 3-point underdog. I guess Vegas does know what they're doing in terms of that because Vegas had them at a 3-point underdog against Utah. I'm looking at the basketball scores here. I have Wisconsin -3, by the way. They're up 11 in the second half. We'll get you some college basketball when we get to that in a second. The Oregon loss. Michigan dominates. Cincinnati shuts out SMU. How are they going to get into number 4? Cincinnati, everybody in Ohio, are you wondering how they're going to get to number 4? Why should Michigan, because they win, move up ahead of you guys from the 6th spot? Michigan State will drop from 7. The official BCS standings will come up next week. But in the NCAA, we'll go through the scores here real quick. In the NCAA, the rankings, Georgia played Georgia Southern. That's one thing that Charlie O said. Now I'm beginning to see it. Why are you scheduling non-conference games that don't mean anything late in the year, SEC? Georgia did it. Tennessee did it. Mississippi did it. Alabama did it to New Mexico State a week ago. They're going to get the Iron Bowl next week as well. So Arkansas and Alabama this last weekend. Alabama, should they stay in number 2 after their so-so victory over Arkansas? Arkansas got 35 points on them Saturday, and they covered the 20.5-point spread. So very interesting how the BCS is going to look at it. Right now, it's Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Cincinnati, according to the rankings, the AP Top 25, has Cincinnati in the top 4. Notre Dame moves up to 5, Michigan to 6, Oklahoma State 7, Mississippi 8, Baylor 9, and Oklahoma 10. Oregon drops from 3 all the way down to 11. So we'll see how the BCS ranks them tomorrow night. ESPN will have that coverage 7 o'clock Eastern on their network to determine the BCS. Some of the scores from Saturday: Houston, They may not make the BCS, but they may end up winning the American because they have one more win than Cincinnati does, and they both play next weekend. They beat Memphis 31-13. They did cover. San Diego State did not cover against UNLV. They beat them 28-20. That's a big weekend coming up for Fresno State and San Diego State. San Diego State will play. I think they're going to play Air Force next week. They're going to play Boise State Friday morning, 9 a.m. in San Diego. So early breakfast for Boise State, San Diego State for CBS. And then Fresno State will have San Jose State in San Jose. So if somehow the Spartans can upset Fresno State, then San Diego State will get the Mountain West title and the championship game. Fresno State has the tiebreaker on San Diego State. Saturday, we told you about Georgia. They played Charleston Southern, 56-7. Ohio State, 56-7 over Michigan State. Clemson, 48-27 over Wake Forest. That's going to impact the ACC championship. Pittsburgh has the coastal side wrapped up. So now it's going to be between Clemson and Wake Forest in terms of who has the other side of the bracket for the ACC championship. Texas A&M, another SEC team playing a non sequitur. Prairie View 52-3. Mississippi State beat Tennessee State 55-10. Iowa beats Illinois 33-23. They're right there in the Big Ten West. They've got Minnesota next week for the Brown Jug game. They're fighting it out for Wisconsin. Wisconsin got a 7-point victory, did not cover against Nebraska 35-28. Alabama 42-35 over Arkansas. Notre Dame just thoroughly dominated Georgia Tech 55-0. For those of you Notre Dame haters out there that said they played a soft schedule, yeah, Georgia Tech may not be the best team in the country, but they're not Prairie View. They're not Charleston Southern or whoever else. They're not New Mexico State. They played a Georgia Tech team from the ACC, 55-0 at home. Maryland 59-18 over Michigan, 59-18 over Maryland. Virginia loses to Pittsburgh. They cover the 14 points, but that clinches Pittsburgh the other half of the ACC championship. Cincinnati 48-14 over SMU. BYU beat Georgia Southern 34-17. NC State 41-17 over Syracuse. Baylor has a chance still at the Big 12. 20-10 victory over Kansas State. Red River shootout next week. Oklahoma State 23-0 over Texas Tech. They'll play Oklahoma next week as well, too, for the Big 12 championship. I think Baylor probably is out of it because they beat Oklahoma, so they may have a chance at second place. If Oklahoma State loses, then we may have something there. But Oklahoma State only one loss on the year so far. So that's what's going on in college football. Got a lot to talk about on Wednesday. We'll preview all the matchups on Wednesday for the Friday football show, BCS scenarios, college football, the final weekend, lots of rivalry games. We mentioned Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn, Washington State. We'll all be in Seattle for the Apple Cup, the Oregon State game as well. And then Notre Dame will go visit Stanford. That's a huge game on Saturday for Notre Dame if they want to move up at all. If they get some help and they can move up from the 9 spot as well, too. All right, when we come back in 30 seconds, we'll hit the NBA. We'll hit the college basketball hardwood, and we'll wrap it up with a closeout of the NBA lines and the NHL lines for tonight. Back in 30 seconds on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you as your solo host, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino and Capitola. Check them out when you're in Silicon Valley or in Capitola on the shores of the Pacific Ocean. See you in 30 seconds. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino and the Britannia Arms of Capitola. As we welcome you back in the studio here for the next segment, the NBA. Let's get to the NBA here a little bit. Lots of things going on in the NBA. Let me run through the standings here real quick. The top 8, the top 10 actually, now that they have the play-in tournament. Chicago, Brooklyn, Washington, Miami, top 4, 12-5, 12-5, 11-5. 11-6. Charlotte at 10-8. Cleveland 9-8. Probably better than a lot of people thought in number 6. The Bucks are 7th at 9-8. The Knicks at 9-8. The Celtics at 9-8, and the Sixers at 9-8. Atlanta 8-9. They won over the weekend. They handled Charlotte pretty well pretty easily over the weekend as well, too. They handled New Orleans over the weekend. And then Toronto, Indiana, Detroit, Orlando rounding out the East. The Golden State Warriors, 15-2. They've only lost twice this year. It's unbelievable. They lost to Charlotte. They lost to Memphis at home, and Charlotte 2 Sundays ago. They're 15-2. Phoenix has won 10 in a row. I think they've won 11 in a row now. They think 10-0 in their last 10. They've won 11 they won 12 in a row. They're 13-3. Utah 11-5 in the 3 spot. The Clippers 10-7. I can't figure out the Clippers. I don't know if they're good or not, but they're in 4th, 10-7. Dallas 9-7. Denver 9-8. Portland 7th at 9-8. Lakers 9-9. How about that fight yesterday in Detroit? Holy cow. 9-9 for the Lakers, 8-8 for Memphis, and Minnesota 7-9 round out the 7-10. And then Oklahoma, Sacramento, San Antonio, New Orleans, and Houston. Houston 1-15 to start the year. And Sacramento fired Luke Walton. Alvin Gentry, who's been a longtime NBA guy, he's the interim coach now for the Sacramento Kings, as Luke Walton lasted 3 seasons in Sacramento. All right, some of the games that we are going to have, some of the games from Sunday. Let me recap it a little bit here. The NBA, there you go. The NBA start right now. We'll have the lines up right now. Clippers beat the Mavericks yesterday. The Lakers and the Pistons in that fight. The Bulls barely cover, 5.5 if you have that. Pushed at 6 on the Knicks, 109-103. The Suns continue to roll. They beat up on Denver by 29, and the Warriors get a 119-104 victory on Sunday. Saturday, the Knicks won against Houston. The Pacers are playing better. They beat the Pelicans. The Wizards still up there at the top. They're 11-5, as we said. The Hawks beat the Hornets. Celtics beat the Thunder. Bucks beat the Magic. Timberwolves are rolling. They are not as bad as people think they are. They are under 500, but they're playing better. They roll up 138 points on Memphis on Saturday. The Trailblazers covered a 6.5-point spread barely against Philadelphia on Saturday night, 118-111. And the Jazz pretty much fait a complete Luke Walton's tenure as a Kings coach, 123-105. in the NBA. All right, we look at the NBA lines right now. Brooklyn 6 at Cleveland, 208. Washington 4.5, 216 versus Charlotte. Atlanta 11.5, 213 versus Oklahoma City. Boston 12 versus Houston, 213 the total. The Bulls, I have to check this out here. Let me see if I can get to the Bulls game here real quick, because it's only a 1.5-point spread against the Pacers team that's 7-11. They are playing better. The Bulls tied for the best record with Brooklyn. They have only at a 50% chance to win. Does ESPN. Vucevic is out. Javonte Green is injured. Alex Caruso also injured. They're day-to-day, so we don't know. But I don't think that made the line get any lower than where it would be. But right now it says Chicago 1.5 and the total 211.5 against Indiana. Oh, very interesting on that. You would think you'd have to lean all over the Bulls for that at a 1.5-point spread. They still have DeRozan. They still have Zach LaVine. They still have guys that can shoot the ball. And they played very well against the Knicks the other night. Milwaukee 13.5. They don't cover. That's a lot of points for Orlando. Orlando's garbage, but they're 13.5, 218. Orlando plays hard, and give them credit, but they don't cover. And I don't think 13.5 might be too much to cover Orlando. Minnesota 3.5, 214 at New Orleans, and Phoenix 5.5 at San Antonio, 221. The final two games tonight will be the Utah Jazz 10.5, 221. Sacramento 2.5, 221.5 versus Philadelphia. They're a favorite against the Embiidless Sixers. Does this help Alvin Gentry coming into the start of his new tenure as an interim coach with the Sacramento Kings? And Utah just keeps plugging away. Memphis gave up 135 the other night. 10.5 might not be enough for the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, let's move on to college basketball here real quick before we get out of here. Actually, let me give you the NHL lines. Some NHL games to go with. Columbus at Buffalo, 125.5. St. Louis, 155.5 against Vegas. St. Louis playing very well right now. The NHL standings I'll get to in a second. Nashville, 135 versus Anaheim. Anaheim playing very well as well. Nashville right there on a roll in the Central Division. They're 9-7. They've got 19 points. They're right there with Minnesota, Winnipeg. St. Louis has 20 points. They're third in the conference. Anaheim is 10-5. They've got 23 points. They're 4 back of Calgary, who's in first, and 3 back of Edmonton, who's in second. Winnipeg, 115 versus Pittsburgh, 5.5. The total. Colorado, 310. This is Ottawa's first game coming off their COVID stretch. They had their last 3 games postponed. This is the first game back. You think about tired legs. 310 is a lot to lay, but I guarantee if you want to take a flyer on Ottawa, this may be the time to do it. But I wouldn't put very much on it because they've not played in a week and a half due to the COVID restrictions and the protocols that the NHL has. 3-10-6, minus 3-10-6 for Colorado. Carolina 150, 5.5 at San Jose tonight. The home teams, if you like the Grand Salamis, the home teams are favored by 170. That's the aggregate number of goals. And then the total number of goals in all the games is over under 35 for the NHL games tonight. Some of the standings, Florida is still the best team in the NHL, even though their coach resigned, 29 points, 13-2 overall. Toronto 13-6, 27 points. Tampa Bay at third, 23. Detroit, Boston, Buffalo, Montreal, Ottawa round out the Atlantic. The Metropolitans was the only conference that had teams above 500, but then the Islanders went into a funk. They're last at 5-8. Carolina 14-2, 28 points. They do not have the most number of points in the NHL. That still goes to the Florida Panthers. But Carolina right there, 150 favorite at San Jose tonight. That could be a little tough for the Sharkies tonight. 5.5 the total. And San Jose at home, they lost to Washington on Saturday, 4-0. They got shut out. Carolina 150 there. Carolina, Washington, New York Rangers, Philadelphia, the Devils, Columbus, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders in the Western Conference. Minnesota, Winnipeg, St. Louis, we gave you those already. Nashville, Colorado, Dallas, Chicago, Arizona. In the West, in the Pacific, Calgary, Edmonton, Anaheim, Vegas, Los Angeles Kings, San Jose, Vancouver. Seattle Kraken are 5-12, but it seems like to me they're playing a lot better than what they are given out to be. All right, when we come back in 30 seconds, we'll hit the college basketball. We'll hit the college basketball scene. A lot to talk about in college basketball on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty, your solo host here. Back in 30 with the wrap-up of the show and the NCAA. All right, welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino and the Britannia Arms of Capitola. Get online at www.britanniaarmsdeanza.com or on facebook.com/Britannia Arms Capitola. Check them out. Happy hours during the week. The NFL Sunday ticket is big in both locations. So if you're on vacation and you want to go somewhere, go to the Santa Cruz area, go to Capitola, check out Andy and Sydney over there, the owners, or go check out Tony and Mike over in Cupertino. They have all the NFL games, all the weekend college football, Thanksgiving week, some happy hour specials as well for those that work in the area or live in the area that want to go during the week. All right, welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Let's get into the college basketball. Thanksgiving tournaments. I love college basketball. You know why I love college basketball? Because they play each other. They don't – SEC take note, college football take note. They play each other. Gonzaga has already played. They're going to play UCLA and Duke this week. Purdue has already played teams this week. They beat Villanova yesterday, coming back from 11 down. They look like a very solid team. They look like they're number 3 in the country. Gonzaga and UCLA, they're going to play tomorrow night. How about that? Gonzaga, UCLA going to play tomorrow night in Las Vegas. That's going to be a big game. Then Gonzaga will play Duke. Purdue, best in the Big Ten right now. They held off Villanova yesterday. Kansas off to a great start in the Big 12. How about BYU? They upset Oregon last week. Oregon was in the top 15. They're out of the top 25. And Michigan is still very good. They won yesterday. They lost yesterday to Arizona. They got drubbed by Arizona, but they also lost to Seton Hall, who's very good in the Big East. Top 25 games on Monday, teams that will play on Monday. Houston, Seton Hall, Illinois, UCLA will play Bellarmine tonight. Gonzaga will play – actually, Gonzaga is going to play somebody. They got tune-ups before they play against each other tomorrow night, and I'm trying to remember who Gonzaga plays tonight. They are going to play Central Michigan, and UCLA will play Bellarmine. Those are both in Vegas, and you got a feeling Gonzaga and UCLA are going to end up playing each other tomorrow in that tournament. So Gonzaga, UCLA in Vegas. USC is also playing today. They have Dixie State. That's a 26-point line. A couple more weeks here, and we'll have some conference games to go at it. But right now, the rankings in the top 25 for college basketball. And this is Feast Week. ESPN has games up and down the wall. We'll try and get you selections by 11 a.m. or noon at the latest every day during the week while there's college basketball games during the day. We know we did that during baseball season as well too. Charlie O, Nick, and I will have those. We'll have those for you. Keep checking our social media. You can get to our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well too. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Capitola and the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check them out anytime you get a chance. NFL Sunday Ticket, big on their docket. All right, Gonzaga, UCLA, Purdue, the top three. Kansas, Duke, and Baylor, the next three. Villanova, Texas, Memphis, and Alabama round out the top 10. Kentucky, who was not in the top 25, they made it into the top 25. They are 11th. Houston is 12th. Actually, they were 14th. They moved up to 11th. Houston, Arkansas, Illinois, Tennessee, 12 to 15. St. Bonaventure. If you haven't seen the St. Bonaventure Bonnies play yet, they can match up with anybody. They can shoot. They've got 5 seniors on that team. Watch out for St. Bonaventure this year. Arizona, 17, BYU 18 off their win off Oregon last week. 40-point win in Oregon that BYU beat them. Mark Pope doing a great job out there in Salt Lake City, in Provo, actually, for BYU. Auburn, Michigan, round out the top 20. Michigan, 2 losses already. They've fallen 16 spots. They were 4th to start the week. They're in the AP poll at number 20 now. Seton Hall, number 21. They beat Michigan last week. They're undefeated. They're at 21. UConn, 4-0. They're 22. Florida, number 23. USC, who plays tonight, 24. And Xavier, who beat Ohio State last week, they're number 25. Ohio State not in the mix. Oregon, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, North Carolina, Indiana, Michigan State, Marquette, all receive votes, but they are not in the top 25. So a very interesting format for college basketball. Lots to talk about with basketball coming up. Lots of football to talk about. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving week, everybody. Want to mention that we'll be back on Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern, for the Make the Money and Run Friday football show, a special 1 Eastern time. We'll preview all the Thanksgiving weekend football. And then on social media, you can catch us all week. I'll be in Seattle over the weekend. Might be able to do some posts here or there, but check out our social media. We'll have all the college basketball, NBA, and NHL as we get to it. All right, for Charlie O, I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. Have a great broadcast. Have a great week, I should say. Hope we had a great broadcast, but have a great week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving week. If you're off for the week, enjoy your week, spending time with family and friends. We're still post-pandemic, so hopefully everybody's still safe and sound. Make sure we get to the place where we want to be before the whole pandemic started. So a lot to be thankful for this week for Thanksgiving. Appreciate all of you. Thankful for all of you and your support and your comments that you make back to us as well, too. So Charlie O, intern Nick Robinson, I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. That's going to do it for the Make the Money and Run podcast for this Monday, November 22nd, 2021. Enjoy the day, everybody. Enjoy your Thanksgiving week. We'll see you on Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern, for the Friday football show, the special Wednesday Thanksgiving edition. Take care, everybody.